Welcome to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we, a business owner and an artist, discuss the business of art and the art of business. Hey friends, I'm Carl, founder of Epic Made, and I'm the host of the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we share our thoughts on creativity, art, and business. Past guests include Nico Farah, founder of Product Market Pro, Elaine S. Levy, founder and CEO of Motivare, and Jags Nee, lead animator and owner of Jag Studio. I'm forever grateful for the supporters of our podcast, and we are always looking for more sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you in part by AIGA. The 2025 AIGA Design Conference is happening in Los Angeles from October 9th to the 11th. And it's not just any conference, it's the 40th anniversary. This is the place to be for 3 days of inspiration, connection, and professional growth. As a listener to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, you get an exclusive 15% discount on your ticket. Use the code EPICLISTENERS when you register, as one word. This is a fantastic opportunity for growth and networking in the design community. Get your tickets at aiga.org. We'll have a little link in the bottom as well. And as always, the Pixel Retentive Podcast is brought to you by the creative gurus at Epic Made. Epic Made is a team of artists and strategists who craft entertainment quality animation and illustration that grabs attention and gets results. With clients like Nickelodeon, WWE, and Sci-Fi, we know how to speak to your audiences. Visit getepicmade.com and let's collaborate on your next creative campaign. All right. So with us today, we have Mike Manor. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, what's up?
Super stoked to have you. Sorry about that long intro sponsor message. Appreciate you sitting through it.
Of course.
Cool. All right. So Mike Manor is a Los Angeles-based animator, director, and writer known for his pixel art aesthetic and voice acting. In 2025, his short, Beantown, Trial by Fire, was an official selection in the Pictoplasma and Ottawa International Animation Festival. Mike is currently developing a TV show with Paramount, animating shorts, and is hosting the Silver Lake Shorts podcast. Well, that sounds pretty awesome, Mike. Really stoked to talk to you about some of this.
Thanks, man. Psyched to jump in.
Yeah, man, super fun. All right, so before we jump too much into the subject of today's episode, I don't know why I stuttered out on that, but I'd love for the audience to get to know you a little bit better. How long have you been in your industry, and what project are you most proud of so far?
Well, I've been animating probably since 2016. So what is that? It's like 9 years.
Yeah, 9 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then project I'm most proud of is probably Beantown, which, you mentioned in my intro. It's just, the most modern thing I've worked on, and it's very personal, and really pleased with how it turned out.
I love it. Well, let's talk a little bit about Beantown. So Beantown is a Adult Swim short, right? It lives on their YouTube page, as I understand, yeah?
Yes.
Awesome. So what's the premise of the show?
The premise of the show, it's kind of like an existential look at working in coffee. It follows a crew of 4 people as they kind of navigate working behind the line. And it's sort of like a universe that's designed to be how working in the service industry feels. It's kind of like the feelings govern the logic of the world they live in. So they're dealing with like onslaughts of like zombie like customers. They're dealing with like crazy health inspection problems that are sending them on like dungeon slaying quests, and dealing with like the psychedelic elements of like closing late and smoking weed, and like a close that feels like it's a million years too long, and it really is too long. And it's just like a fun way to like riff on a bunch of experiences I had working in coffee.
I love that. So dialing into your service industry experience, and making light of it and turning it into like an adventure and kind of all that sort of stuff in there, it sounds like. Dude,
exactly.
Cool. Well, so I mean, that sort of ties into what we want to talk about today is kind of inside animation, TV, and gaming culture, right? And you even mentioned some things in that that's like, yeah, you turn this like health inspection into like this dungeon crawler kind of thing. And these are all like really exciting kind of pop culture references, right? And those sort of things, people, especially creatives, in the animation industry, like we thread those things into the things that we create so that people can relate to them. And that's the kind of bigger pictures of some of the culture stuff. But I assume that's been your experience, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think with Beantown specifically, it was like very much like transmuting a real life experience. Like even the cafe itself is basically like a one to one of the cafe that I worked in. Um, and all of the episodes are like largely based on kind of things that have happened that are like more blown out, I would say.
Nice. Has anyone that used to work with you at that particular coffee shop ever like, oh, dude, that's like literally the shop? You ever had anyone get
Oh, I
excited
mean,
about that?
absolutely. I'm still very good friends with like a lot of the people I worked with, and even the owner of the company reached out to me and was like, "Oh, this is like so amazing that you whatever captured this thing." And I think for like a lot of people who work, especially in like independent coffee shops, it feels like somewhat between like an adult purgatory of sorts, and also like you're in a cult, like a trauma bond cult of like younger people who, like work families are really created, and you're like going through this thing every day that is just like dealing with like the psychic insanity of, like difficult people and also great people as well, which is maybe less shown in these shorts. But I think a lot of people were kind of like, oh, it must have been like a nightmare working in coffee. And I'm like, it's actually like one of the best times of my life. And I think that like the challenging elements of it are like hilarious in retrospect. And we're kind of hilarious in the moment too, once you learn to like not take any of it so personally. It's just
Right.
kind of,
It's just fucking
yeah.
coffee, right? Like this lady,
Yeah.
at the drive-through is clearly having a bad morning. It has nothing to do with you, but she's taking it out on
Yeah.
you. Yeah. That's awesome. My brothers are both restaurateurs and my father was. So, that service industry stuff, I've seen it all. I've been up on the Google reviews watching some lady just go tit for tat on this like 1-star review. They got like thousands of 5-star reviews, right? And they're like, this one, like, worst restaurant I've ever been to in my whole life. Like, someone didn't talk to me for blah blah. It's like they go back and forth at the end. It's like, who hurt you? Like, like that's where they left
Oh
it. Oh,
my
it's so
gosh.
great.
The one-star reviews are they're really funny to me. I think like, and I highly recommend if you're like looking at a restaurant and you see a one-star review, maybe it's Google review, I encourage anyone who's listening to click on their profile and look through their other reviews. They're usually like reviewing like a Citizen Bank, or they're like reviewing some kind of like a DMV, or something that's just like designed to bring like, it's like I don't know like what experience people were expecting, but it's really funny to see where people channel their rage, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love it. So cool. Let's so you said you're working on something right now with Paramount. Is that something you could talk about or high level
Maybe a
or
little bit. Yeah,
okay?
it's yeah, I mean it's I've been, working on a pilot with them for another series. It's kind of been like a long time in the works. I don't think I can get like too specific into it, but
Sure.
yeah, the experience of say, getting something picked up and, developing a pilot. These are things that I've done with the idea so far, and say because of the crazy merger that is finally ending, a lot of it has been sort of put on pause and hopefully be resumed soon. But it's crazy out there.
Yeah, who did they merge with?
They merged with Skydance.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I remember following some of that, and then I just had a crazy month or two myself, and I feel like it fell off my radar. So interesting. So what do you think are
yeah.
some things like if someone's got a show or an idea, and obviously like you have like soup to nuts, like you've written this stuff, you've probably done some voice acting, like you've done, you animate it, like you're really all in. These are like your creations. Obviously, you have people help you and you have a team and like people that you team up with, I assume. But like Talk to me about that, like some of the inspiration, some of the pitfalls, and then all the way up until like, hey, how do you get somebody to pick up your show, or what would the viewers want to know about that part of the process too? So
Yeah, I mean, I've learned, just a ton over the years. And I mean, as far as like, generating an idea, I think for me, you kind of start in a place where you have an idea that you're just like super passionate about, is maybe where you begin. Maybe you have something that you've always wanted to make. And for a while, like I had the idea that I sold to Paramount like ages and ages ago, and so much of that became like the question of, well, how do I get anybody to care about me? How do I even meet these people, or like basically get on their radar? And how do you like prepare materials in a way? So at the very beginning, you're kind of like, at least I was, you might be Googling like pitch deck, or you might be Googling pitch Bible, and you're like thumbing through maybe like the Adventure Time one. That's one I was really looking at. And you just start like studying how people have maybe sold things while developing. But so for me, at least the first leg of what I was trying to do was, okay, I need to like build like a higher profile for myself. And I did that by kind of animating riffs on pre-existing things. So I might like take a scene, like I took a scene from Atlanta, and I animated my own version of it, and I like tagged a bunch of the people who worked on the show in it. And then, maybe somebody follows you back, and then this is like a little link that you have made in the world. Somebody knows about you. And for probably like 2 or 3 years, I was just kind of doing that. I was like making little things. I was still working on like my pitch decks and things like that, but I kind of looked at it like, and it seems like a crazy amount of work, say, to do it. But I just kept thinking like, how do I just like give something to somebody that they love?
mm.
Kind of like forget about like the work attached to it. But everybody loves like fan art, I think. And so
Fan art of
if you're
their
do
stuff too, right? Like
yeah, that's such an easy like fan art of their stuff. That's easy. Like you have a lot of agency. You could be like quite bad too if you wanted. Still, people will maybe give you put you on their story, and it might send you around the internet. And I just kind of looked at this as like my practice. I did it a lot for music when I wanted to work in music, and got connected with a lot of artists that way. And then yeah, I sort of to make it more like here's my tip to make it more functional than just like I'm making a bunch of free stuff and this is ridiculous. Is for me, I was just like learning how to do everything. I was learning like colors. I was learning, composition. So I would take like an idea that I had for composition, and I would be like, oh, I really want to test this out. Instead of making like a short for myself, I decided I would like riff on something pre-existing to practice. So then you kind of turn your practice into something functional. So when you finally learn your lesson, now you can post it online, and then maybe an artist you love, you know, puts it on their story or follows you back. And it created for me like this feedback loop that made me really want to just like keep doing it. So the practice didn't feel like a grind. It felt functional. And maybe for people just getting started out too, like you might have like personally, you might have like a bar that you want to reach, or you might have like really good taste, and you may find yourself not able to reach that threshold all the time. But people online are impressed with a lot of things. So I just encourage people to make their work visible and post the process. And
that's huge advice, by the way. That like do a thing to learn and practice on that you can put out in the world, as a replica kind of or a fan art piece for somebody else, and then any adoration you get from that like instantly refills your cup, no matter if the product is good or bad. This like that's great, because the grind can suck, right? You can get That's where you fail, right? When you stop having the motivation to continue to
sure,
elevate, because when we all start, everyone sucks, right? Like there's nobody
yeah,
that came out the womb like an amazing animator, or like it just doesn't happen. Like you have to learn tools, you have to learn how to do all the different ways of storytelling. So I think it's a really valuable little nugget there for sure.
yeah. Yeah, and I'll say after doing that for a while, I started making more connections, and I actually had an opportunity to pitch to Frederator. It's
Yep.
like the Adventure Time people, which
Yep.
was kind
Fred's
of
been on the
funny.
podcast twice, actually.
Oh
Yeah.
no, yeah, he's I think he's a Massachusetts guy too, actually.
No, he lives in Burbank. He's out there in LA.
Oh, he's in LA. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I they were the first people, Frederator, they were like the first to ever take a look. I had like an assistant there who liked an idea of mine. I think I probably cold emailed her. I don't even know. But I realized that I was like emailing Titmouse and they're like, we don't accept unsolicited whatever. I was emailing all of these people and all of them, some of them were like, hey, this is kind of cool, but we can't like officially take a look at it. But Frederator was the only one who still had like an open pitch program. So I was like, okay, let's go. I created this whole deck, very inspired by the Adventure Time deck. Trying to write with a lot of personality. And I flew out. I was in Massachusetts. I flew out to California to do it in person as like an extra measure and just to check out if I wanted to be in LA at the time. And when I got there, I like delivered my pitch, and I was so unbelievably nervous. I'm not like a battle hardened public speaker, as many animators are, by
Sure.
the way.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is it is so insane to ask like these very solitary, introverted people. Not all animators are like this, of course, but it's like quite a feat. It's like, hey, the guy who draws well, like, come do like this great song and dance for me now and charm
Yeah.
me and
Yes.
it's whatever. So I did like fine, and I remember after I was done, the guy who was running the meeting he just said, he said, "Don't worry, you'll get better at this." And I was like, I was like, I think I'm gonna die. I think I'm gonna die. But it was true. Like it really was where it was at, and I think in my heart I had known that that's like, like that's what I had put out.
Yeah.
Um, and
But you never
that
want
was
to hear that.
pretty.
That's like it's supposed to be encouraging, but it's
No,
also like, oh, so I just really sucked. Thanks.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, and it felt like at the time, it felt like that's it. I'm done. Like it already had been such a feat to like get in front of these people. It had seemed so intangible at a certain point in time. Um, but really, like you just keep going. It's kind of crazy. You just keep going. But one of the
That's the
things that
secret to everything.
yeah,
Just keep going.
there's like I feel like for pitching there's like two parts of your brain. One is to create like the super cool, unique, awesome idea, and then the other is to maybe hold in your mind who you're speaking to, and that they are oftentimes executives are people who have they have good taste. They are sort of representing a brand. They're very passionate about things, but you have to sort of know how to fit for the right person, and a lot of that pitching can feel very I would actually say common sense based versus there's like maybe there's an inclination to be very academic and to treat it like a presentation, but a casual nature to things, and just thinking about how a guy or how a person is feeling about showing their boss something. Like how can you tee them up to take an idea outside of this meeting and explain it to, because they're basically playing telephone with your idea. Like you're
Right.
rarely gonna meet the person who can just say like let's do it. You have to charm and convince the executive first. Yeah, so I think for me it's always been like, how do I catch an angle, or how do I talk about my idea in a way that is interesting to them, and their business interests as well. Or I
Yeah.
guess not. Yeah, maybe I don't know if I agree
Well, no,
with
I
that
mean
exactly, but
it's got to make sense. They've got to listen to it and get excited. Like, oh, this could work. I could see this being cool. And then on the business side, it's like, and like, there's this tangible place where this could have some sort of ROI or benefit. That I can pitch to my boss up the line, right? So at the end of the day, like business has to stay in business, and the only way to do that is to make money, and they can't and put their money in places that don't make them money. So it all has to make sense, even though it has to be fun and exciting and all the other parts. So yeah,
I can tell you like sort of an example of this is I was with Alex. Alex, we were selling an idea for a while, and it was kind of like it was sort of structurally like a family sitcom, say, but we wanted to do all of these other things with it, talk about family in a way that's like a lot different. And so when we were pitching this idea, there's a million things that feel like family sitcoms. So we kind of found this way in talking about it that's like, this is like a family sitcom, but we're actually like have all of these themes. We're using the family sitcom as a Trojan horse, and we are going to put all these weird ideas inside of it. And that way, when we are finally delivering it, and then that we had that idea, that was bought by Adult Swim for a bit. So we were developing with them for like a little under a year on that before it got the plug pulled on it. But I think that was kind of like that was our angle in is like, yeah, family sitcom, sure, sure, but like let's talk about some really cool weird shit that's like really personal. Let's like it was all about like dads and masculinity and all this other fun stuff that we wanted to do with it, and they found that really attractive because it has sort of the defensibility of appearing like a family sitcom, aka if I put this in front of an audience they're going to be more inclined to take it in. But then it will have that little edge that makes people want to have like, say, a discourse around it that's more than just, a clone copy of many other shows that I'm sure anyone who's listening can imagine.
Right, right.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's my sort of, I guess, pitch window into into things a bit.
So that makes sense. So after you did that first pitch to Frederator, was it Frederator or Fred Films? I don't remember which came
It
first
was
for you.
Frederator at the time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So you bombed that. I take it. Is that what it sounds
Yeah.
like? Okay. And then
Yep.
so what did it take to get your first show like actually like tell me about that experience where something that actually got picked up and what that felt like probably was amazing, I'm sure.
It's I will it's kind of crazy. So I think that the path to getting something made, there's like no concrete way to get something made. I've seen people who get that sort of lightning in a bottle person and they just like sort of let them skip a bunch of steps and get right to work. But more inclined, it's kind of like an amalgamation of everything you've been doing. So in my case, with the thing that I worked on with, I'm working on with Paramount, what actually happened was I was working on a podcast with these two comedians. And these two comedians knew about me because of all of the free work that I'd been putting out online, basically. I
Right.
animated a couple clips of theirs. They said, "Oh my God, we're working on this podcast. We want it to be animated. We think you would be really great at it." And so I animate a few of these clips. I work on the podcast with them. We share some clips online to tease it out. Because these comedians have some good already industry support, they were getting these eyes on them. And some of them were from Paramount. And so I had a reach out from Paramount that was like, hey, why don't you come into the office? And we have this thing we might want you to work on, and we'll just have a discussion. So I went in there, and they had a sort of digital platform, kind of like a shorts program of their own going. And we were talking about the thing they wanted me to work on. And then they were like, oh, well, if you have any ideas, feel free to let us know. And I did this like soft pitch of an idea where I just talked about it really conversationally. And it actually, very, very lucky it like lined up. They were like, oh, that sounds cool. Like maybe you can email us some materials about it. And I emailed them some materials on it. And then we made a like sort of web series version of it, which did fine. And a couple years later, they hit me back up. They were like, "We think this could be a show. Let's try to develop it." So what was kind of crazy was, and I would say like the real takeaway from this is, it might feel like at a certain point in time while you're like grinding or you're like doing something that feels like it's not necessarily going anywhere or it's a bit short-sighted. Like in my case, I was just animating clips of a comedian. But I had no idea how important that would be for me. Like a couple years later, it would like
Mm.
create the bridge that allows me to sort of sell something for the first time. And so, yeah, I would say that so much of this stuff is not like looking at the top of the mountain. It's kind of like looking at like actionably, how can you make yourself larger in a moment, and how can you attain like a larger orbit, and then once you do that enough times, eventually someone's thinking about you and they reach out. But yeah, kind of crazy. I will say this, from when I've actually sold ideas, I feel like you become so battle hardened to how volatile this field is, because you'll sell something and then it might get the plug pulled on it, a few months down the line. So you never know like what's going to really go through. And initially, this can feel kind of devastating at a time, but the more you spend in the space, the more you learn that everybody has something like that. They have a thing that came and went that was supposed to be, and it was going to be really cool. And this guy was involved in it. And and if my life would have been great if this had happened. But yeah, I mean, you just keep going, and you learn that there's just always more.
Yeah.
And it felt good. I remember when I sold something, but it also you also feel a little bit like, okay, well, when's the other shoe going to drop? But in that case, it didn't, and it just went through. So yeah, you kind of build like a toughness, I would say.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense. And again, you just say you just keep going. That's fantastic advice. Both, even as just if you're, some of our audience is more on the entrepreneur side in terms of like running an agency or a studio. And yeah, the roadblocks will come, and you're the oh my god, we got lucky, this is amazing, that'll come, and then funding drops, or like the company merges or goes bankrupt, or like you just got to keep going because this is what you love and this is what you want to do, and you just got to make sure that your contracts ahead of time are as helpful as possible to you in the event of the worst case scenario. So like I know I did this a lot growing up in my business. I've been doing this now for 20 years, but like being so excited about the opportunity and the possibility that you sort of gloss over protecting yourself with the contracts and making sure like, oh yeah, this is great and this person's nice and I love all this, but like what if that person gets fired, or what if this person, like what happens now when the person who was your advocate's no longer there, nobody there actually gives a shit about you anymore, and you didn't protect yourself in the contract, right? So it's like
sure,
so
sure,
always have those things built in. And I know, in your case, like you're dealing with Paramount, and you're probably still a small creator, like you only have but so much leverage where you can ask and get what you want out of things, but you got to do what you got to do. I negotiated a contract for $1,500, which is not much work for us,
sure.
with a large entertainment company, which I won't mention, and it took a year for us to get paid and to get through this contract. But like, there might be future work, and like they won't want to go back and revisit the contract once we're in their system and they've already done this sort of stuff. So like, I didn't care. I did like a crazy amount of work on this contract with them to make sure that we were protected in the event that we do actually do something worth talking about moving forward. So this is something to consider.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because it's sort of crazy to. I understand like there's really two sides of it. There's like the side of people who, of course, like totally advocate for like fair treatment, fair payment, all of this stuff, and they are like completely correct. And like in a perfect world, I certainly aspire to that as I, work on things. But then there's also this thing where you kind of have to like serve your portfolio. That's like something that I come back to in a lot of cases. You also, and this is of course maybe coming from like somewhat like a place of like privilege in a way, because you have to be able to endure and be able to be like set up in a way for this to work. But there are times when I take a gig, um, and maybe it's working with some artists who are really excellent. In my case, it was like a bit in music and things like that. And they might only pay you like laughable amounts of money. Maybe it's like 500, bucks for like, like a really involved amount of animation. But what's crazy about that stuff is I have done that. I've taken the money. I've seen my stuff get well received. And then I'm like, man, I really should have been paid more. And I feel bad. And that sucks. And I understand. But I'll say this abstractly, in the future, somebody is like, dude, I saw that clip. And that's when I knew I had to email you for this other job that pays really well. And you're like, wow, it's almost like it's like an investment in a way. And it's like an investment in which know you can't know what the results will be.
Dude, but isn't that
It's
the
like a
case?
blind bet.
Yeah, it sort of is, right? So look, when you're in a position, like you always have to evaluate that, right? Like if the money's not there in that project, you look at it and you go, if having this in my portfolio creates more value for me as a creator or my brand
Yeah.
overall. Like the first time we got to do a piece with one of the properties for Warner Media, Like they had like a $3,000 budget, and I had three animators on it. We had to get it done in 2 weeks, and it was like only a 15-second spot. But I spent more money on it than we got paid. But then I won some award shows with it. We got best in show. I added that to my portfolio. It opened up the door to all these other things because we didn't have any big name brands in our portfolio. This is back in like 2019. And then once you have like yourself established, you can trade on that clout. But you have to be, you'll get a as any kind of creative, you're gonna get somebody that's got the next big T-shirt line or the next big whatever, and like they got no money, so it's like you really have to, you can only do like a few of those before you're like no one's doing that. Like the odds of you finding the next like Schmack clothing or Fubu or whoever like big brand, it's just
Yes, yes.
there's not high odds. Everyone thinks they have the right idea, so it's you just have to invest your time where it makes sense, and at least know that like if you do those things, make things that you want to put in your portfolio, so you're building the right lure for the future things that you want.
A
Don't
100%.
Yeah, don't give away shit to like people that like there's like you don't even want to be doing more of this type of work. So like don't just be nice to everybody kind of thing,
No, 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 no. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I'll say like maybe on this as well, like through so much of this I was working in coffee. And I think people can kind of feel like maybe they're not a real artist if they're not like working on it full time. I remember I had that feeling a lot.
Mm,
And I'll like do like a little flip on that because I felt extremely happy balancing. In retrospect, I liked doing both because when you get your money from somewhere else, it means that you can say no to so many things you don't want to do. You
yes.
can just only work on the stuff you want to work on. Um, and then you won't get caught up in that project where you're like, I wish I'd never said yes to doing this favor or whatever it was. Like, you don't have to do that. Your money comes from somewhere else. And on top of that, like, at least like this, my experience in coffee would go on to, inspire something that I could, sell to Adult Swim down the line. There's just like real life is where you're going to get a lot of inspiration from. Um,
100%. Yeah, the
and
more
so it's not so
experiences you
bad to
have.
be there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, and there's no one way to be successful, right? Like that's something people think, oh, well, they'll listen to how, well, somebody did it this way and you did it that way. And it's like, look, whatever you've got to do, you've got to just keep making steps in the right direction. And if you can make incremental little steps, they just add up. So if you've got to work at a coffee shop for 10 years while you're doing this stuff on the side, and it's mostly like just mostly work that's not making as much money as you'd like, or you're not charging enough, but you're building your way to the right portfolio with the right people, like know that you're on the right journey, like, and that's just what can work for you, right?
Yeah,
you
I
know
agree. And also, I think that there's people who set rules for themselves in terms of how they want to achieve the things that they want. And I would say that you really have to broaden your horizons and what it means to achieve and enter like a space, especially spaces as difficult as like anything creative. You know,
oh yeah.
you can have your tunnel vision way that you want things to work out, but the more in it you get, the more like laughable it becomes to try to directly control a very, very specific outcome. It's better to kind of ride the wave and see what is going to come of it, and just continue to use your own ideas to innovate on top of things. Like, I can't tell you how many times I might get a note on something that I may not like have exactly wanted, but if you can entertain that and use it as inspiration, you can sometimes riff and create something completely brand new on it. And so just yeah, remaining open minded even in the face of things that are probably going to piss you off. There's a lot of things that will piss you off as you move as you move through this space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
it's
I
like
think you touched on something there, that like just a creative career in any field of creativity is difficult. There's going to be lots and ups and downs, and when you try to take your creative passion and merge it with financials and value in a marketplace and business and all these other variables that don't give a shit about your creative vision, like that's not their number one priority. Your creative vision is the vehicle for them to make money. Like you've got to make concessions and you've got to figure out what works there. And dude, you're absolutely right. Like on the creative side, like I built up this business, right? Doing animation, illustration. I'm not even on my art team, and I'm an artist. And so I completely got to the point where I don't do art at all anymore. And then I was feeling dead, like a little like creatively dead, because all I do is just sell shit and write contracts, and that's not very exciting, right? For
sure.
my inner artist. So then I got to start up my own little side project where I like live stream and do like posthumous collaborations with my dad. And I've been doing that now for 3 years. And it's amazing because I just do whatever I want. Like there's no
Yeah,
like I was like, this looks crazy. Let's add this. I'm not worried about anybody else's opinion except for do I like this at the end of the night, right? Like so there's something exciting there. And some people might find that they don't ever want someone to dictate their creativity, right? So you can't make
sure.
money making your own animations if you don't have a following yet, right? Like you need to get someone to
Yeah,
pick up your show, or you go, I'm going to work this 9 to 5 at a coffee shop or whatever you need to do to make your bills get paid, and then you build your brand and your product, and you tell your stories, and all of a sudden maybe you start making money on ad revenue and Patreons and all merch and all the different ways that people come up that way, and then you don't need anybody to approve your stuff. It's just your audience, right? So
yeah,
there's a million different ways you could make this work, and we're circling back and doing that now with Epic Made, right? So like I started up just like, oh, I want anyone to pay me to be creative, and then I'm like, oh my
sure.
god, I'm not. This is all crazy, and I hired people to like do more of the art, and like I realized I'm not a production artist personally. That it ate my soul to like have to try to do all these things that wasn't about the creativity. And now we're circling back as we're becoming a more and more profitable company and have a reputation in animation. We're now going, hey, well, we always want to tell our own stories, so let's put some of our own stuff out there. So you see some of that
Yeah,
stuff coming together now. And this here is an example of that. Like I wanted to make our own podcast so we could talk about things that nobody else talks about from a perspective no one else does. So you never know how you can get there and start making your money. There's no one path. So
100. And a little angst is good for you. I would say
yeah.
that like when I would be working in the coffee shop and I'm like really pissed that my break is late, there's something kind of sacred in that discomfort that makes you, when you get off of your shift, you're like, I really want to spend the time that I have the way that I want to spend it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's motivating. I think like trying to have, design a life that is built of that is built at 100% comfort is kind of it's like doing yourself a little bit of a disservice. I think it's good to be a little close to things that make you a little uncomfortable. At the right at the right
Well, look,
measure. At the right measure.
there's no growth in comfortability, right? You don't
Yeah.
become better, stronger, smarter when you're comfortable, right? You have to get out of your comfort zone. You've got to stretch yourself, and the balance there is like you have limitations, right? So you can be
Yeah.
on. So like that's my problem. Like I've always just overindulged in everything, and then realized like, oh, I have limitations. Like I can't do that many things. I can't. Like I've literally torn my ACL 3 times. Like I'm 40 years old. I've had
Oh
three
my
knees.
god. Oh my
Like you know what, Carl? You can't go that fucking hard. Like like
sure,
like
yeah.
so. But I have that problem in every aspect of my life, right? So yeah, just knowing that and having that introspection and just realizing that there's a you don't grow in comfortability, but you also have limitations on the other side. So just push
Yeah.
yourself. And nothing on planet Earth gets to sit around and be comfortable without worrying about something eating it or finding resources or shelter, or you know what I mean. So the idea that you should just be comfortable all the time is some weird first world problem that somebody made up somewhere.
I agree. I agree. And you know what? Like we look at like the people who ideally would be the most comfortable. Maybe there's some of these like billionaire types. And oh man, they must be uncomfortable because they are up to so much. Like all of us, if we had that money, we would be like, I can't wait to just like, I just want to like look at my bank and know that I'm cool. Like
For
that's like what most people want.
indefinitely. Yeah.
Yeah, just know that I'm cool. But these guys are like, I gotta go to the moon. I gotta like terraform Mars. I gotta go. It's like it must not be very comfortable. It's not like
It's like, you probably just need some therapy. Like, why don't you go figure out what the hole
no,
is you're
yeah,
trying to fill with mass egregious sums of money? Because it's clearly not working for you and you just want
no,
more.
no,
I call that the dragon sickness, right? Like, it's like, I want to be a bigger dragon than the other dragons. Like, you already have a
yeah.
giant squandered pile of gold, but it's not big enough because this dragon over here has got more gold than you. So you need to, make sure that you've got more gold than all these other dragons. So, uh,
Oh yeah,
it, it's
no. It's a
it's
it's a,
a
a
it's a
cursed
rampant problem.
ascension. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a you can have this, but it's gonna do this.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't
We
know.
try to avoid those people. So, anyways, yeah. Well, look. So, is there any other things you think that people should understand about the uniqueness of this culture, right? Like of the gaming and entertainment and TV culture here.
I wouldn't. I don't. I'm not exactly. completely sure how to say answer that in terms of like a kind of like a cultural forecast or like like a way for people to get like involved. Do you mean?
Uh, yeah, I think I was just thinking like, is there a uniqueness or anything else that we didn't sort of touch on through the episode? But it's
Oh
okay if
no,
there's
no,
not. Yeah.
I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about
Okay.
it.
Good. Good. I love it.
Sure.
Yeah, and I love just like the kind of stuff that you're doing that's just tapping into like lightheartedness and storytelling of like like the coffee shop and the service industry, but like threading that through and making it into something just entertaining and fun and very human, right? Like you can relate to that show even if you've never worked in the service industry because you've been through these similar things in every type of job where you're just dealing with a bunch of crazy stuff, or even you've been on the other end of it where you might have been that customer that we're like talking about. So
Oh yeah, 100%. You know, life is like a you're building a sandcastle, and then the waves come in, and you got to keep building it again, and that's
right.
that's how it feels working in that space. In a lot of cases, as you're trying to build your designs for your future, and yeah, I would say that like as I like reflect on that time, there's just like I think the thing that I enjoyed the most about it was it felt like in the right moment when I was there, it was like somebody was paying me just enough to like work with my best friends and listen to my favorite music and joke around. And I think in adult life, it's always so much about like where you're heading to that I felt like when I found that inside of this space, it felt incredibly special to just like appreciate that and to know that, there's going to be, other times in life where you're going to have much more to focus on. So I think like, yeah, I guess it's like, power of perspective. There's something to appreciate in every moment. And yeah, I think like people, and believe me, like I know if you work at like, a more, even more high volume, like I work at independent coffee shop. If you work at like Starbucks, that is like the Olympics of customer service.
Yeah.
That is like y'all the volume you are moving and the also the customer you are dealing with
The
is
customer for sure.
the customer you're dealing with. Like Starbucks absorbs so many customers that independent coffee shop people don't have to get, and I just have nothing but my hats off to the Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks folks. Y'all do it.
Well, shout out to the coffee warriors over there at Starbucks and Dunkin'
That's what
Donuts.
I'm saying. Yeah. If you in the service industry, if you are serving people, or if you are also taking customer complaints, if
Oh
you're in a
my
call
god.
center, I respect the hell out of you, man.
Yeah. Oh my god. Dude, I used to do call center work. That was the last job I ever had while I was in college before I quit and started this company. And yeah, man, I would get some doozies. I was doing IT support on a government
Oh,
contract on base, and it was a nightmare. But we won't get into all that. But
sure, sure.
there's probably a fun animated series we could wrangle out there. So we'll talk about it sometime if you want. But
Undoubtedly, dude. Undoubtedly.
I love it. All right, so we're coming up on time. But before we wrap, I have one last question for you. Is there anyone or anything in your career that you'd like to shout out to the audience? Maybe a mentor, valuable resource, or favorite client?
Um, I mean, there's so many people who have like helped me intermittently on I guess like my journey, like people who like give me a chance. I can't like exactly narrow it down to be so specific.
Sure,
But there's so many, yeah, you know, I'm probably doing a bad job of this right here. Let's see.
it's okay.
People I'd like to. I mean, honestly, I guess I would really shout out the people online who develop educational content and put it on YouTube or at least for a very formative point in my career on Twitter, people who were posting art tutorials. It just became like a place for me to get an education that I could not tangibly get elsewhere. I was, well past college age when I was getting into animation, so it felt like the ship had sailed and all these other great artists were in art school. They're all, in Cal Arts, so they're all just super talented, had chances to refine their skills. But yeah, through like just people who put up tutorials, some folks who do it for free, I mean, those people are, it's crazy because it's like those people inspire people in such a crazy way. They may never know like who they affected
So
the
who's the
projects that they
first one that
affected.
comes to your mind when you think about tutorials on Twitter?
Oh man, well for a while I was doing so much stuff on
Now I'm
pixel
just
art.
curious. Okay.
And actually, I have some of his tutorials up right here because I was just reflecting back on it when I needed, I was doing like a static shock animation, just like trying to do electricity.
Yeah.
This guy, oh man, I'm gonna butcher the name.
Sorry.
What is his name on X? Oh my god! So if you're very specifically looking for just absolutely wonderful pixel art tutorials, this guy Saint11
Okay.
routinely saves my ass with any question. He has like almost I think 100 pixel art tutorials,
All right.
and yeah, just like
Shout out to
yeah,
Saint 11. I'm
and
definitely
there
going to
are
check it
so
out now.
many,
Of course.
there are so many, of course. But yeah, specifically this week I was like, could not get electricity to animate nice, and I was like, I bet you he's got something online, and of course he does,
Hell
and he
yeah.
did it for free. I mean, for free, unbelievable,
I love it.
unbelievable. So yeah, huge shout out. What can you say?
Magical. Magical to all the
Yeah,
content creators out there picking up the whole creative community as a whole. I love it.
they are.
Cool. All right, and a big thank you to Alex Crocus, a previous guest and friend of Mike Manor, who connected us with Mike. So thanks, Alex. Shout out, buddy. Alex makes
Thanks,
some amazing
Alex.
work himself, and you can check out that episode. I'm sure it's in the last 10 episodes somewhere if you look back. All right, so we've been talking with Mike Manor, who's the creator and animator of Beantown on Adult Swim Smalls. You can follow him on Instagram at Mike_Manor. That's MIKE_MANOR, where you can chat with him directly and check out his awesome work. Yeah. All right, Mike. Well, thanks so much for being on the show, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you so much.
We really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe to join us on our next journey through the world of art and business on the Pixel Retentive Podcast.